A very warm welcome, everybody. Once again, welcoming you to the 12th Reality Plus Conclave and Excellence Awards 2020. I hope all of you are ready and excited for our next session, which is equally interesting, where we will talk about Mumbai commercial reality demands and investments. I would like to welcome our moderator for the session, Mr. Neeraj Bansal, partner and COO, India Global and Head Corridors, ASEAN, Hong Kong, KPMG, India. Neeraj Bansal, with over 23 years of professional experience, has played the role of a market maker through collaboration with ASEAN and Hong Kong member firms. He has led more than 1,200 advisory engagements across various sectors. I would now like to invite our expert panel in an alphabetical order. Mr. Ambar Maheshwari, CEO, Indiabulls Asset Management. Ambar Maheshwari brings with him substantial deal-making and structuring experience in the real estate sector. With an overall experience of over 20 years in India and Australia, Ambar has been focusing on the real estate sector for the last 10 years. Mr. Amit Ramani, founder and CEO, Awfis Space Solutions Private Limited. Amit Ramani started Awfis with the vision of revolutionizing the office space delivery ecosystem in India. He is the member of the YPO Delhi chapter, RICS, and NASCOM. He is also an active member of CoreNet, serving on the board for the latter's Charlotte chapter. On the panel, we also have with us Mr. Ravi Ahuja, Head Commercial Business, L&T Realty. An industry leader in the real estate space, Ravi Ahuja has over 20 years in pivotal roles in multidisciplinary transactions and advisory for occupiers, investors, developers, and government, encompassing office, retail, residential, land, and industrial asset classes. On the panel, we have with us Mr. Sunny Bijlani, Joint Managing Director, Supreme Universal. The flag bearer and catalyst for brand Supreme, Sunny Bijlani is leading the business with passion for architecture and design, along with the vision to take the business to newer, promising markets across Mumbai and Pune. On the panel, we have with us Mr. Vivek Chandy, Joint Managing Partner, J. Sagar Associates. Vivek specializes in areas of private equity, mergers, acquisitions, and corporate commercial work. He routinely represents clients in real estate transactions, including leasing and sale transactions. His clients include listed real estate investment trusts, offshore, and private equity funds. I would now request our moderator to take over the proceedings while I welcome all you gentlemen on the screen. Very warm welcome to all of you.
Thank you, Khyati. Good afternoon, everyone. Glad to be part of today's panel discussion. A very, very warm welcome to all my fellow panelists there. A pleasure to connect this in a virtual format. So COVID-19 has transformed from a health emergency to an economic crisis, thus rendering countries around the world vulnerable to last few months. Barring a few sectors, almost all the sectors across India have been hit by economic slowdown. And in the two panel discussions which were done before this panel discussion, we've seen that, from a real estate funding to a housing market, we've seen how the COVID-19 is impacting different facets of the real estate sector in the country today. And in this session, we would focus on one of the more important segments as well, in terms of the commercial segment, how it is coping up with the crisis. If I just spend a minute more in terms of the fact that with the surging demand and falling vacancy rates, India's commercial realty space was really a hot spot. It has been witnessing very strong demands over the past few years, and we witnessed an all-time high office supply in 2019, and the net absorption rate also across the all top 7 property markets on an average had gone by almost 19% in 2019 to reach almost 40 million square feet there. And if you look at the co-working space as well, which has been a newer entrant, but has rapidly climbed, the ladder. And we saw that in terms of the top 7 cities on the co-working space as well, it had reached almost a whopping 12 million square feet in the last year aspect of it. Leasing volumes in Mumbai as well. So if you look at it, focus on Mumbai, so it has been a kind of a quite a strong, healthy run since 2016. We've had increase in absorption. And almost 10 million square feet has been leased out last year. But as it says, the good stories have their challenges as well. So after a stellar year in 2019, another 19 has happened, which is COVID-19. And perhaps with the three new words of the year, if I may say, pandemic, WFH, and lockdown, the growth story has been halted at the current time. So, with this little bit context, let's start the discussion with our industry veterans, which are there today on this virtual panel, taking the time out to share their thoughts and views with their audience.
Have we lost Neeraj? I think this is one clear example where work from home cannot work for too long.
No, it's this is makeshift at best. You can't replace Office with this.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, I've worked from home for the first couple of months, and with all the chaos that happens at home, you realize that why this commercial segment really survived for so long.
Yeah, yeah. No, we're all fatigued. I'm still working out of home, but it's just a bit tiring now. I need to see people rather than faces on screens anymore.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I've been talking to my screen for the last 6 months, and I'm tired of doing it. So yeah.
He's still facing issues.
This is a pity our moderator is out there. I think why don't we kickstart the discussion anyway?
Yeah,
Ravi, you want to start, Ravi, with how you're seeing Mumbai real estate, and till the time Neeraj comes in, let's at least go through with some of the things that the topic talks about, and then maybe we
Yeah,
can
sure.
Neeraj, right? How are you looking at
No,
Mumbai?
thanks, Ambar. Yeah, sure. No, thanks, Ambar, and thank you. I'm just in midst of such august company with Amit, spearheading and a brand new asset class. No longer brand new, but yeah, a lot to change there with co-working and now with enterprise formats. Sunny, a great guy I know. Ambar, you yourself. So good, Ambar. Thanks for bringing me in. On Mumbai, really, just a snapshot of what Neeraj was really mentioning, and probably just a quick, outlay as to India in terms of statistics has panned out vis-a-vis Mumbai, and the kind of projections, so that we set the tone in the context of this session. Clearly, with over 45 million square feet of absorption across top 9 cities in 2019 calendar year, Jan to December, the expected drop due to the pandemic and lockdown and everything that Neeraj was explaining is really going to be a fall, to the tune of 45 to 50%, so close to 22 to 24 million square feet. And since it's about Mumbai, probably we'll quickly understand Mumbai was close to 5.86 million square feet, 2000. That's a drop, the projected drop may be close to 25%, close to 4.2 million square feet. So that's the kind of comparison I would kind of say. The half year is here to, if you compare Jan to June, really 2.8 million of 2019 first half can be easily compared to 2.3 million to 2019. So quite encouraging Mumbai numbers vis-a-vis others. Of course, Bangalore is the back of the leader with about 14, 15 million square feet last year. Even that may see close to 7 million square feet, this year. If I were to bring in some demand drivers, with respect to how things may, from here look, while work from home, lockdowns have led to these projections of falls, to my mind, the top two, demand drivers or selection parameters for organizations is clearly cost optimization and flexibility. These are the two main buzzwords we all are witnessing when we are talking to clients, engaging with clients, and everybody is, especially the decision makers have moved from CREs just being support, or even CEOs sometimes taking backseat, with the CFOs driving the conversations with respect to cost optimization and how crucial it is for them to survive over the next 6 to 12 months. That's the kind of cost optimization we're looking at. Besides, of course, the other demand drivers may be de-densification, which will lead to certain increase in space, which I think is going to fairly be balanced off by the surrendering of space as well, which work from home kind of things will lead to. Clearly, corporates are in a assessment mode. Majority of them are in a work from home policy making exercise, which will lead to a lot of reassessment of their commercial real estate space. Geographies are mattering. Work from home are slowly converting to work near home. We are looking at hub and spoke models, which may turn out to be more practical, in that sense. To my mind, when you talk about expansion, I think that's out of the game for the moment. Except we do see certain segments which are doing positive in this so-called pandemic environment. Clearly, pharmaceutical, e-commerce, streaming companies, logistics companies, of late data centers over the last few years at accelerated mode are showing a lot of demand across segments. The character of requirements, what Mumbai sees when you compare it to the other IT majors, cities like Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, or even Pune, is really the corporate office environment. And that's where the front offices are really making a buzz line. There again, the character of demand that is being driven in the market is again driven by cost optimization. The higher pricing, locations of CBD, BKC may see some surrender of spaces at the 200 levels or 250 plus levels on rental per square feet per month, really being driven down by locations like Powai or even further off, LBS Road or even Thane and Navi Mumbai, that is seeing these things shape up. To my mind, these are some of the clear demand drivers. And on the supply side, Mumbai, just for the record, has 125 million square feet of stock. And so far in the calendar year has added about just 3 million square feet. So supply will be like all the other top 9 cities, even Mumbai, there will be a delayed or deferred supply as well, which will hopefully help some pain, but not much because the surrenders are expected to be more with vacancy levels going up. Mumbai, fairly okay, between 12 to 14%, may see 2% rise in vacancy levels. But some of the other cities, the IT cities will certainly see vacancy levels rise much beyond the 15-18% levels. Neeraj, welcome back. We just got started setting the tone with some statistics and some demand drivers. So over to you, please, for you to moderate us. Thank you so much.
No, thanks very much. Some challenge on the.
So Neeraj, I think
So
that is
thanks
why
very much for covering it. So let's begin.
yeah, Neeraj, I think that is why everyone is saying work from home will not last too long. People are going to go back to work.
Nice one,
Yeah.
Satya.
So thanks, Neeraj. Please go ahead. In fact, we had your questions. I thought if you would not be there, I'll start putting up those questions. But good to have you back.
I think we've lost him again,
I
Sapna.
think you will need to take those questions. Yeah.
So thankfully, Neeraj had given very detailed questions beforehand. And first of Amit, like work from home, there is a this thing that it will not last. There was a lot of death knell for co-working. People said co-working will not last. COVID people will not like to share spaces. So, what's your take on that? How remote working is going to work and co-working is going to work hand in hand?
Amit,
Amit, you can hear me?
Amit, you're on
we
mute.
can hear you.
Amit's on mute.
Yeah, Amit, you are on mute.
I don't think Amit can hear.
Okay, maybe Ambar or Ravi. Ravi, if you would like to talk about it.
Sure. No, I think the co-working.
So there are questions.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, Amit is there.
Thank you, Amit. Please.
Sapna, the question is to me.
Yes, the
Yeah.
question is to you. Remote working,
Yeah, Sapna.
co-working
So,
in a
Sapna,
traditional office.
Yeah. So as I'm on mute. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes,
Yes, we can hear you.
So,
We can hear you with some buffer.
Can
Amit.
you hear-
You're not clear.
yes, we can.
You may want to just get back to Amit because he's obviously has
Yeah.
some challenge.
So can you hear me
Yes, Amit, please go ahead.
now?
Yes, Amit.
So now are you able to hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you, Amit. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So as you rightly pointed out, obviously remote work.
Ravi, for the time being, if you can give a short and crisp answer on that, and we'll get back to Amit.
Sure. Look, I think Amit's the expert here on co-working, but clearly
Yeah.
the co-working industry globally is just about a decade old, which is no longer a new industry. In India, of course, there are 350 plus players, providing co-working services. And now, of course, the segmentation in co-working is so deep that it's no longer just co-working, which WeWork was known to do, but also the co-work players are really providing services and managed offices, as well as being an operator and also providing franchise services or just for a management fee, making sure that they manage your operations. So co-working in that sense is from my point of view a full service kind of product and no longer just a product. So Amit is back. Amit, if we can hear you clearly, I would rather
Yeah.
hand over this
Yeah.
co-working question to you. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, Sapna, as you rightly pointed out, that obviously remote working and co-working are both here to stay, and clearly in the new normal, it's clearly been driven by the two separate stakeholders, right? The employer who's looking for cost savings and the business continuity, and the employee who's looking for flexibility to work from anywhere. So, as a result, the real estate paradigm is shifting from location, location, location to location choice and time. And just a couple of points. I think clearly the workplace is going through a shift, right? What used to be a 85% individual workspace, 15% collaborative, will get to about 50% individual workspace, 50% collaborative, with a mix of meeting rooms, open and closed, hot desking, and individual work pods. The other thing which we are seeing is that we did a survey of about 1,000 plus people, and 75% of the respondents said that they can work remotely, as long as they had a great infrastructure to work from, right? Which most people did not have at home. And clearly, so in our belief is that the structured work environment will continue to be here. It's not going anywhere. The other piece which is important is that I think the new design of the offices will have to be extremely well situated, because the employees are fairly now comfortable working from home and being productive. So the question remains: if you're going to ask me 2 hours of travel time, the office better be very, very special and give me an experience which I can't get from home, right? So that's the third point. Clearly, I think the density, in my opinion, will change, not because the desk size will change, but the overall configuration of what the workspace looks like
which will be more collaborative, will make that change. And then I think finally, this whole de-densification per se will increase space requirements. In my opinion, that's not really true, because in the new avatars, only 70% of the new space will be taken up in a HO location. 30% will get distributed between satellite offices and work from home. So clearly, India's story is intact because of the shift from a lot of work, probably from other countries. The overall commercial space will increase, but I don't think it's because of just de-densification that the commercial space requirement will increase.
Sunny, your views on that. Is de-densification going to increase demand for office spaces, or is it the hub and spoke model that we will see, like Amit mentioned?
So Sapna, I'll tell you from our own experience. We are doing, commercial projects in Bombay. Two, three of them are on floor right now. Now, what we've seen is, even Ravi rightly pointed out, there are going to be a lot of opportunities available close to residential hubs. There is very little quality grade A commercial supply outside of the CBD. A lot of what is there is absorbed, and a lot of what is there is not grade A. They don't even have proper fire safety standards because they built many years ago. Today,
True.
every project has two staircases. One is a fire exit. You have special fire elevators. All of this is lacking in most of the old supply that's already absorbed. So we are seeing, we've got guys who come and lease from us, and also guys who bought from us. Now, their one point, criteria was, if the office is grade A, it suits my requirement in terms of size and is close to my workplace. I save close to 1.5 to 2 hours every day traveling. If you multiply that in for the whole year, the guy is saving almost 25 to 30 days in a year, not traveling and not sitting in his car. And that gives that guy time to either be more productive at work or spend time with his family, or pursue his hobbies. Now, people have started realizing that, especially like a city like Bombay, where 3 months of the year we face insane amount of rainfall, where at least a week of work time is lost because you can't get to your workplace or get out. So, if this is located closer to residential hubs, the productivity is that much higher, and your office uptime is that much higher. So this is one clear distinction that we've seen. So I feel that there is a great opportunity now for getting commercial developments within residential hubs. So yes, like Amit said, you also have your head offices in your CBDs like the BKC, etc. But there will also be supply that will now start getting absorbed, and there'll be new demand getting created within residential hubs. So that's what we are seeing on it.
So we'll see more grade A offices coming in suburbs as well and integrated townships as well.
So that's what we are doing, and we are seeing a good offtake of that even during the lockdown.
Okay, fantastic. Another very talked about topic all this while during COVID was force majeure. So, Mr. Chandy, I would like to ask you, the question is, in the wake of COVID-19, force majeure clause has gained unprecedented importance in commercial real estate. Is it being invoked by occupiers? What is the current scenario now?
Yes, interesting question, because as soon as COVID hit, I would say about 80% of occupiers tried their luck by sending notices saying that, there's a force majeure situation and rents need to be suspended and the like. But if you look at the law, and, after COVID came, the Delhi High Court has gone into the matter in great detail. It was very clear that a lease is an executed contract where there is nothing remaining to be done by the lessor. So under a lease, unless there are specific provisions that, cast obligations on the lessor and require the lessor to do something which he can't do, a lease cannot be terminated. So in cases where there were lock-ins, as per law, it was not possible to terminate the lease by the lessee. However, based on relationships and, sometimes on sympathetic grounds and other grounds, many lessors actually, suspended rent for some periods of time, reduced rents, and other things. Now, the Delhi High Court in the decision I was talking to you about made it very clear that commercial difficulty does not amount to frustration of a contract. It basically said, unless the premises are substantially destroyed, you cannot say that that the lease has come to an end. So that's the clear legal point over there. But there's an interesting point coming to co-working spaces that you all just discussed about. Now, co-working spaces most of them do not execute leases. They all execute service agreements. Now, it was possible to terminate service agreements. So I know for a fact that many of the people who had entered into, I know it may be controversial, but many people who've taken space in co-working spaces try to terminate the services agreements because it was not as difficult as terminating a lease. However, I think that was a double-edged sword because many people now have realized that, there's nothing like co-working spaces because, we don't know how long this is going to go on. Where I can terminate my lease, I should. And then, as long as I have a reasonable amount of space, in a co-working setup, all my people can rotate and work from there when they need to. So as I see it, in the last few months, the co-working spaces that we are working with, some of the large ones, are doing very well and seeing a lot of renewed interest. So I think that's a space really to watch out for because although they were hit in initial periods because of this point of law that that I was referring to, I think now they are likely to do very well. I hope
So
I've
which
answered the
means
question.
force majeure is not a blanket statement. It is case to case, has to be considered.
Absolutely. And for a lease, unless there's a specific provision, you can't terminate on the ground of force majeure.
Neeraj, please go ahead with the next question.
Sure. No, thank you very much, Sapna and everyone. Let me bring in Sunny, you on this there. As you see that as companies are leasing office spaces, are relooking at their leasing strategy, with smaller offices in CBD and larger spaces also moving to suburb, and also the WFH or work from home areas around it, residential areas. How do you see leasing trends changing in this market?
No, I, in fact, kind of covered this with Sapna's earlier question, but I strongly feel that there is going to be a shift from higher rental locations. Some part of that absorption will move to, rationalization of rents. So you will start seeing, like how Ravi pointed out, Mumbai and many other locations beyond Thane, Navi Mumbai. You've seen a lot of IT large deals happen in the Thane Airoli belt also. So there are going to be some part of the commercial supply that will move to rents that are more affordable for the companies. And also there are going to be opportunities in residential hubs for commercial developments because a lot of the residential hubs do not have grade A supply available. So I feel that's a great opportunity, and we in fact are. I just said that done a few projects, doing a few projects now, and even through the lockdown, we've seen demand not only from end customers but also there has been a good investor appetite with FD rates being painfully low and the stock market volatility. This is seeming like a good avenue for investment for a lot of guys. So we've seen a good offtake and a good demand, honestly.
Okay. Can I bring you a number to have your views as well on this area?
Yeah. So Neeraj, I have a slightly different view compared to the panel at this point in time on, even the hub and spoke bit. So in theory, it sounds great. There is no doubt about it. I mean, something that happens, which is, which pretty much questions your entire methodology of working and how you do. And therefore, things like these people do think about it. Right. But we also know that these are things which are black swan type events and therefore, will hopefully happen once in a while. Work from home has been very, very efficient for all of us. And I think this will continue going forward as well. I for one, don't think I'm going to go back to office every week, every day of the week. Right. Probably 1 day, 2 days of a week, even whatever time it takes, whenever the situation normalizes, I would take 1 or 2 days that I'll work at home because it's proven to be quite efficient. Right. But does that mean that the entire strategy will change? In the short term, I think people are still evaluating how things are looking up, how things are going to go forward and so forth. Even if something like this comes about, it is a 24 to 36 month away sort of a time frame that we are looking at. Changing your overall leasing strategy when you know for a fact that this will get over at some point in time, and then you prepare for it for the future as well. I don't think it's going to go through such a substantial change that, you will have offices in suburbs and so on and so forth. I think, someone like an Amit Ramani is making sure that you don't need full-fledged offices in suburbs. If I need a temporary workspace, or if I, because Mumbai, for instance, smaller offices, headquarters, corporate offices, very easy to walk out of the lease if you're not locked in. You write off your furniture fit outs and so forth and just walk out, stop paying rental. And which is when someone like an AWFIS or a WeWork would come in, where, you need a temp space for, say, half the space that you were occupying. So the solutions already exist. I don't think we're going to see, instead of residential buildings in Bandra, commercial offices coming up in Bandra and so forth. I think CBDs will remain CBDs, and offices will continue to be there. Leasing strategies now, I think, one of the things that is likely to change is the pandemic will find itself into force majeure. So Vivek will need to include pandemic also as one of the causes where it becomes a force majeure, or it becomes applicable, which until now wasn't there in most of these cases, and which is why it wasn't looked at. So from a leasing strategy perspective, honestly speaking, it's, if by all accounts, globally, people are saying that, you will discover the vaccine next year, and whatever time it takes to vaccinate or inoculate most of the world, I don't think this is going to have such a substantial change that, you will not have CBDs anymore. You'll probably have residential and commercial buildings side by side. I doubt it.
Sure. So in a kind of a summary manner, so you're looking at a perspective that while there may not be a major change to the strategy, at the same time, in a short term, and also some amount of permanency as well coming in, to say that an exploration of a distributed office strategy would come in there, as part of kind of a.
No, I think, most of the people for their expansion now will start looking at multiple offices rather than one large office. The theme for the last 10 years has been consolidation, right? Two things which everybody went out and did was that, look, I have 15 offices or 10 offices in the city. Let's consolidate and put that into one particular building, which I don't think will happen. It used to be just such an obvious thing to do, which I don't think will happen so frequently, number one. Number two, for the last 10, 20 years, we've tried to make office space more efficient by reducing the per square foot usage or per person usage, right? Started out with 150 to 200 square foot per person on an average as a rule of thumb. Over a period of time, that fell to currently at about 75, 80 square foot per person, right? I don't think that also is going to be as obvious. More than efficiency of workspace, people are going to look at effectiveness of workplace. So, de-densification will certainly happen. But multiple offices, yes. I mean, tomorrow if one building seizes up or closes, or is sort of sealed off because of the pandemic, at least you've got an alternate workplace where all your can operate from. So that's something which will happen, but not entirely a major shift. I don't see a major significant shift happening in the way we do business going forward.
Sure. Thanks, Ambar, for that. Amit, if I bring you in on this, I think what Ambar says is in some ways music from a co-working space perspective. Some of the proponents, some of the principles, some of the real work that was happening in terms of why co-working space was popular. In terms of as an effective workspace, a flexible workspace, aspect of it. So while there are positives, in some way when you say that people would look at multi-location strategy and co-working space fits in to a large extent there. At the same time, the worries and the challenges of the fact that the COVID has kind of come about to say that there is a higher degree of workplace management now required more than before around it. And so, do you see any foreseeable change which are coming in terms of the ways of operation, the business model from a co-working space perspective? How are you looking at this segment now on a go-forward basis? And how are you trying to meet some of this requirement which is coming in a different way now from the corporate side of it there?
So I guess, Neeraj, to start off with, every co-working space had a bit of a different business model, right? The office client base is a hybrid of B2B enterprise. SMEs and B2C startups and freelancers, while some of the other competitors were purely B2B enterprise focused. And then we obviously had the business centers, which were largely for enterprises, expensive, but for short-term use, right? So we are clearly seeing a trend where conventional space users have started moving to flex space, right? Industry which was probably about 2.5% of commercial real estate at about 25 mil square feet in the next 2 to 3 years will at least become 10 to 12%, right? So a significant jump is happening, and that is already we are seeing because our sales over the last 6 months have reached almost 80-85% of our pre-COVID levels, which is kind of counterintuitive because the commercial conventional space leasing activity has dropped to half, right? So I think that's clearly one. I think a few trends that we see will happen, especially when it comes to co-working. So the large players, including us and some of the others, the ability to deliver on the brand promise will become very, very important, right? So quality of space, the standard operating procedures for safety, a rich client base, a network across India which can address the distributed pieces that Amber alluded to, and the adaptability to client needs, right? So I think clearly one thing which I strongly believe, if the conventional office guys, their leasing strategies don't change, then they will have a significant impact on their business. Right? Everybody is sitting pretty, but the client has changed, right? And they want flexibility. If you want a 6-year lock-in, I'm sorry, your business is seriously up for grabs, right? And obviously, we are going to get a large portion of it. Secondly, I think the hybrid business model as we see it, which is the SMEs and the startups and enterprises coexisting, I think will work really well because just like the SMEs walked away the fastest, they're going to come back the fastest as well. It's like the airline model, right? If you go do an enterprise deal with a large customer, you're going to get hammered on the rental. But the guy who comes in for the short-term use gives you the upside. So I think those models will clearly be there. In our opinion, resilience, tenacity, and adaptability when it comes to co-working is key to survival, right? So clearly, in the last 6 months, we have launched 4 new service offerings around office care, which is our facility management business, a branded facility management business, office at home, which shifts the workspace, the same experience in a home space managed by us in multiple ways, powered by Office, which is a large portion of the conventional office spaces are being given up. So we take up that space and manage a portion of that space for our customers. Also, co-working players, there are 300 plus players pre-COVID. We are going in and partnering with them to deliver that. So these new offerings are clearly delivering the overall experience from that perspective. And I think one thing which we strongly believed in, right, that the landlord has to share the risk, and which is where we launched our managed aggregation, which was been there for 5 years. And clearly, because of that, we didn't have fixed rentals. We didn't have, minimum guarantees in many cases. So the landlord was truly a partner. And I think that model going forward will become extremely strong. And we are already seeing a lot of, interest from a lot of large developers in that category as well.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Amit, for that. Ravi, if I bring you in, on this, and if you could just help us little contrast this from the perspective that, do you see a difference between how, let's say, some of the larger office occupiers, are doing this and a mid-segment office users, do you see a difference in terms of, their strategy aspect of it, and the approach that they are adopting? And perhaps if you think that, from a domestic company versus a global company, if that is a categorization which helps in terms of, if you see any differences which are there in the market, on this aspect of it, in terms of how they are approaching their leasing strategy on a go forward, and because there is time which has elapsed as well, so there have been indications of vacancy as well as people vacating some existing spaces also, and also we have seen absorption also of new spaces. How do you see this, from your perspective?
So, Neeraj, clearly every organization is at a different life cycle when to their portfolio. In India, there's a lot of multinationals. They may be large companies wherever they're headquartered in the US. Probably they've entered decades ago in India, and so therefore they have the scale here. But they still have deep pockets, even if they just entered last year and they just have one office, let's say in Bangalore. So, the portfolio assessment at a given point of time will probably decide the leasing strategy for that organization. Also, I think culture plays a very important role. We've seen the likes of Google, many other multinationals who are okay and have given work from home kind of, announcements right up to through June of 2021. While at the same time, some of the other organizations are calling their employees back to work, even if it is partially. So I think that may also drive the strategy. I think some of the common pain points, whether it's a large organization or middle scale organization, whether it's a company that's already here for in different cities, is really three or four. The pain points are the same. Everybody's driving to cut costs down, and clearly, I would digress and go back to Amber's point that there can be a short term and a long term strategy. So clearly, even if you want to drive costs down, you can't do it so quickly in the short term because these are all 3 to 5 year kind of sunk costs when it comes to infrastructure costs, furniture costs, etc. What we're seeing clearly, we develop campuses, and what we're seeing really, there's a shift in culture. There's a shift in, more importantly, the expectations of the customer, the needs and preferences of the customer, and that's what we're coping up with, being more adaptable. What I mean by being more adaptable is something like Amit covered, being flex. So we have chosen from being a product, a provider to a full service provider to all our clients. What that really means, we need to sit down with our customers or prospective customers and see what kind of flexibility we can give them. So, for example, you will see various models. Apple just took 4 lakh square feet in Bangalore, and they paid top dollar 200 rupees because at this moment of time, more convenience for their staff. But at the same time, they would have a plan to eventually rationalize costs by also, being in the suburban locations of Bangalore eventually when things normalize. We had an RFP with us clearly for about 500,000 square feet just pre-COVID, and post-COVID, we're seeing them cut the requirement by half. Again, they're looking at work from home for 50% of their staff, and the balance 50%, they're saying we're okay with cutting the requirement by half. Can you give us scale as and when we need it in a staggered manner? Just give us, instead of 5 lakh square feet, 2 lakh today, and after 6-12 months we need the option to scale up. So I think we're in the sweet spot space of offering clients scale in our campuses. Majority of them are at strategic suburban locations. Walk to work, or what we call our campuses live, work, play, is the new mantra in my view, which not many developers can offer. So these will be some of the key drivers going forward. In terms of leasing strategy, cost is not only the key driver. Like Amit said, you also need to have a long term in mind. So the incoming, individual or professional will probably give you a greater per capita ROI than the enterprise client. So it all depends on your waiting period. It all depends when you're looking at things normalize. These are fluid situations. To my mind, leasing strategies for prospective tenants or corporations will depend on a case to case, depending on their portfolio, what they have today.
All right, great. Thanks very much, Ravi, for that. Vivek, if I can get you in, to Amit did brought out, the fact that that they got new methods as well, like office care he spoke about, and also the fact that that generally, I mean, there is a significant requirement which has come in now in terms of having to have the health and safety, pandemic management. There are no more compliances also to be managed around it. So from a tenancy contracts perspective, which are getting entered now or getting renewed around it, are you seeing certain additional obligations which are there on the real estate developers or on co-working spaces, from the leaseholders around it there?
So the fact is that as of now, we are not really seeing any new leases being entered into because everybody is circumspect about entering into new leases. There are renewals that are being entered into, But in all the renewals that we are seeing, everybody is now heavily negotiating the force major provisions. Everybody is very concerned about having lock-ins because nobody is clear about how long this is going to go on for. And even in cases where they know that they need a certain amount of space, that they will actually use, the concern is if things become even worse, whether they can terminate at short notice. So that is definitely something that we are seeing, people being scared about locking themselves in, and the force major clauses, because like I said earlier, I think Neeraj, you hadn't joined at that point in time, unless there are specific provisions for force major and there are specific provisions on the lessor to do something which he cannot do, you cannot terminate a lease. So I think that's your answer.
Sure. Sapna or Khyati, can we have the audience question as well?
Yes, thank you so much, firstly, Mr. Bansal. With all the technical challenges, we are glad that we could have this discussion going on. We have one question from our audiences. Actually, we had a couple of them, but we have to cut it short to one now. The success of REITs, even during pandemic, shows strong demand for commercial reality. What are the reasons, according to you? We direct it open to
Ambar,
any
would you
of our
like to take that?
panelists.
Sure. Yeah. So, first of all, a REIT is a relatively new product for an investment market like India. It gives you an investment opportunity to sort of manage the risk and return in a manner where this lies between debt and equity. It's more like a debt plus sort of a model, if you like. And people were quite starved of a product like that. There wasn't any opportunity like that available, and therefore everybody wants a piece of this. Number one. Number two, if you look at, we now have the benefit of at least one REIT which was listed pre-pandemic, right? And if you look at the way this REIT was performing, Embassy Blackstone REIT was performing, 98% of the rentals were being collected month on month. That gave such a big comfort to everybody out there that Mindspace then came out, and Mindspace was subscribed 13 times. Such a staggering number. On the one hand, people are talking about work from home, and on the other hand, you have a REIT which is going, every investor wants of it, and so forth. I think another key reason is that it has been established that commercial office space is far more stable compared to any other asset class in the country, and that has helped investors interested in it. And then, if you look at whatever international experience has been as far as REITs go, if you look at any time frame, 5-year time frame, 10-year time frame, 15-year time frame, 25-year time frame, REITs have been the best performing asset class in the world. And this was surprising even to me when we did that analysis. And there has been a lot of research from Goldman Sachs and from JP Morgan on global stock markets as well. So they've compared S&P 500 to a REIT. They've compared debt markets to a REIT, bullion markets, all kinds of markets. And commercial real estate, specifically REITs, have been the best performing asset in any 5-year, 10-year, 15-year time frame that you take, right? The stability of earnings with an because of rent appreciation and cap rate compressions, depending upon interest rates. I think those are some of the key factors which are attracting a lot of investors into this sector. Rightly so, in my view, the kind of office spaces, at least for the REITs that have been listed already and Brookfield, which is now coming up, the quality of assets is fantastic. The quality of tenants is fantastic. These are tenants predominantly which are servicing markets outside of India. So they're not overly dependent upon Indian economy as well. So if Indian economy, for instance, does not grow well, one of the key impacts that it has is on the office space. The office space under occupation will not grow if Indian economy is not doing well, right? But how much does that matter to a Capgemini, to an Accenture, to a Google? Because they are from Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, Pune, they are servicing global markets. So if global economy is doing well, then that's great. And lastly, if anything, this pandemic has accelerated the digitalization of corporates and companies. And we've seen what, all the IT companies have performed in the stock market for the last month and a half. Right? All of their budgets, which they thought would get achieved in a 3-year time frame, are being achieved in 6 months. That's the kind of growth that our homegrown IT companies are looking at. That growth will contribute to office under occupation going forward, right? So commercial real estate, from a variety of perspectives, has been a sector which has been pretty stable even during the pandemic. The other factor is, one of the key factors, all the REITs that have come about have been of very good quality managers and institutions. You've got a Blackstone, you've got a Mindspace, which is again has a Blackstone stake in it. You've got Brookfield coming up. So corporate governance and ethics aren't really a question mark here. You see what you get. So these are the reasons why investors are attracted supremely to these sort of products, and rightly so. There's a tremendous appetite for something like this.
Wonderful. So on this happy note, let me bring this session to a close. We had definitely multiple challenges in this session, but it's great to have views coming in from the industry experts, and we definitely had really wisdom coming out, with nuggets coming out in different ways around it. I think the point which I would say that I would underline, what Amber mentioned, that there is a recovery which is expected from the domestic market there, and B, in the commercial market, from a commercial market perspective, the office spaces which are getting occupied today and will get occupied in future as well, there is a growing trend that the IT BPO industry, as well as the global capability centers or global in-house centers, as they are referred to, would continue to have more demand coming in there, with pressure coming in the overseas side of it to transfer more services to India as well there. So on this note, thank you very much. I really thank all of my fellow panelists and the Realty Plus for organizing this, and also for helping in terms of wherever there was a cover up required on that. So thank you very much again there. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Neeraj.
Thank you, Realty Plus.
Thank you, Mr. Bansal, and to all our panelists. Thank you so much for taking out the time and being present here and sharing your insights. Ladies and gentlemen, challenges.